Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today we start a new show, the Torchbearers, which celebrates those who go beyond the reality of our world to explore its fringes, carrying on a very long tradition of such endeavors. And we have Michael Kopf and Sue McClure. Greetings and welcome, all Torchbearers.
Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. And this is, again, a show to celebrate you. So I'll be asking you both the questions, and I'll give you both a chance to answer them. And we'll use a politeness and common courtesy and let Sue go first. So, Sue, how did you find your way along this path?
Well, I was raised Orthodox Christian and I was raised in the traditional sense of the religion, but there were a lot of things that didn't add up. For example, like going to communion after I learned about how the satanic world works. Then
Mhm.
when I kind of look back at being at the church services and I don't know, the whole thing about doing communion just felt satanic and it didn't feel like to me that these were the things that Jesus would do. So I started diving in deeper. How I got into the disclosure side of the line was one time I was looking up fish recipes and I somehow, it, I don't know, tripped something in the algorithm and I ended up stumbling on the Edge of Wonders. So then I started binge watching The Edge of Wonder Boys, and this is in the early days. I was there right at the beginning when they just have left Epoch Times and they were starting their own way of doing things and their research and stuff. So they were already 6 months in by the time I stumbled across them. And that was the start of everything. I started watching everything about the deep state, and I was like, you know what? This makes more sense. And then I was starting on the path of more the spiritual side, so I learned about meditation. I learned about crystals. These things were forbidden in my upbringing. I was literally told you can't be doing any of this stuff. It's witchcraft. It's awful. It's horrible. Stay away from it. So then I said, you know what? I just don't feel comfortable staying away from it. I like having crystals around me. I like meditation. So then I studied everything I could about meditation. I'm still learning to this day, still practicing. And then when I meditated, I started getting downloads about how Earth worked because I asked, how do we get here? Why are we here? What's going on? Why are things not making any sense? Why is the news saying one thing and, what's going on in the real world is, another? And everything was so counterbalanced. It wasn't counterbalanced, counterintuitive, counter government, counter everything, anti human even. And so I started questioning, I started meditating, and I had some frustration, and I learned how to deal with that as well. I think I was connecting with God to try to figure out what to do and which direction to go. And I asked my guides, "Where do I go from here?" I was literally working on a blank slate, and I had some friends along the way that helped guided me on which way to go, and I also had God to help me which way to go. I started connecting more with my angels and saints and my guides, and they started giving me more directions on where to go. So then over time I asked about the origins of where we began. How did this start? And it kind of opened a whole new doors to helping me understand what our purpose is here.
And that we're going to get to a little later in the show, or actually, or maybe in one of the new shows that we just launched recently. But thank you very much, Sue. And Michael, how did you find yourself on this path?
So I grew up and I had experiences to where like I would go to church because my dad was Catholic, my mom was Lutheran, so you knew that had fun in the house. But we were told we could follow whatever we chose and we weren't forced to anything. And I would go to church and I would be awake for everything, I would hear everything, but when they got up to deliver the sermon or the dogma, so to speak, aspect of it, I would fall into a sleep state. And my mom would be like, "We couldn't wake you up. You would," and we couldn't explain it. The second he was about to say something, your head would drop. And when he was done, your head would pop back up. And it was like you were literally taken out of time. And I would literally feel like I didn't even realize I was asleep. It's like, to me, I just blinked and would carry on where I left off. And they're like, what's going on? And so I never had that aspect and I never did the communion. And a little bit similar to Sue is I started realizing in elementary school and middle school, listening to what the religions, were talking about and studying mythologies, especially the Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Norse, I started noticing, wait a minute, some of this is coming from this and some of this is coming from that. So this is not a true natural religion. This is borrowing from other cultures. So, and I'm talking about Catholicism in its formation. And when I would, find myself at church, I would hear myself thinking when I would hear some of what they were talking about in the rituals going, this isn't right. What are they, do people realize what's going on? And one day I finally went up to my mom and I would say to her, like, how is it, we're told not to have idols or any figurines, because they were idols in ancient times, but yet there's statues all over the church. Isn't that, kind of double talk? And she'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're kind of right. That is kind of iconography. So yeah, that's interesting. You're picking up on that. And I too picked up on, hey, when you're going through communion, they telling you you're eating the body of Christ and the wine or grape juice, if you're in some circumstances got, would be like, this is the blood of Christ. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds kind of cannibalistic to me. And why are we, promoting cannibalism in religion? And again, my mom was like, I can't argue that. You make a really good point. And so we finally decided to stop, going to church and trying to do all of this. And we went and started our own paths to finding out what beliefs and everything. And that led me to learning how to astral travel, how to look into past events with eyes and going, what is this really saying? What is really going on in this story? And I would literally try to pick up the Bible and read it, and I could read Genesis, I could read Job, I could read the Passion, and I could read parts of the Revelations. But the rest of it, it's like I just could not get into it. And even if I read it, a minute after I read it, I would be like, wait, did I read that? Because I would retain no information about it. And so I was like, that's kind of interesting because I could read a mythology book on Greece and be like, oh, this is God did this, and this God is from this God, and here's the lineage. And it's like I could retain information from there. So I was like, why can't I retain information from the Bible? And started to realize the Bible was written, a certain time after the fact. Like, I think they're saying like 30 years after the fact, it finally started getting recorded by pen. Well, my mind goes and says 30 years of storytelling. And you're telling me this is the word of God. No. I'm sorry, I cannot buy that. And they would ask me like, why? Why can't you buy that? I go, remember the telephone game in elementary school? We could not, in a circle of 10 people, say the same thing from beginning to end, but you're telling me in ancient times they could pass a story verbatim through 3 or 4 generations and finally record it properly, word for word. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't think so. And I don't buy our ancient selves were way smarter than our current selves, because I like to live in a world where I think we're getting smarter, not dumber over time in our evolution. So I was like, yeah, doesn't work for me. And I would start to see UFOs, and I could sense energy, and I could sense other entities around. And so I started to realize, what is going on? Is this world that we're living in like just a cover of another world? Are we, multiple planes, or what is going on? And I got distracted with life and trying to be the normal kid. And so I stopped, trying to find answers, and I stopped playing with shadow beans. And then later in life, it's like everything came back and was like, oh no, you need to do this, you need to do this. And had a like 3 near death experiences, in which case I started to see things differently, and I started to process information differently. And I just had this awakening over time of reverting back to what I knew as a child, but in a much bigger sense, in a much different level. And so I would have to say I kind of stumbled on this by personal growth and personal insight to answer questions as to why is this happening and what is my role in this.
Thank you, Michael. That's a very comprehensive answer. So both of you, in part, a great part, were inspired by religious or spiritual, more accurately, issues and how they played out in your life. And you got a calling to not go by the script that you're being sold, but to look and see what is this really about. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, awesome. This is a show about both of you, so I'll share mine some other time. But we have a lot of elements in common in our origin stories, if you will. So, at what point did you roam as a lone wolf explorer? And at what point did you start joining up with other people to make this a mutual journey? And we start with Michael this time.
I would say growing up in middle school, late elementary school, I started realizing I was seeing the world differently and thinking differently. So I would be present in groups, and I would, interact as much as was required. But in reality, I never felt like I belonged in that. And so I would start to question, if I don't fit in with these people here, who do I fit in with? Am I, even human? Because it's like I would watch, human interactions everywhere I went and being like, yeah, I don't feel like I fit in with that. I don't think I fit in with that. I don't understand this. I don't understand this. And this looks more like this to me. And so I would say I kind of, until I got to my late 30s, I had a strong lone wolf aspect, and then I started to realize you can be a lone wolf but also part of a pack, and so I started opening up and letting people in and letting, sharing my experience with people in my 40s, which, is fairly recent, because I am, 48 now. And so I would say it's been like probably the last 6 years that I've really tuned in and was like, yeah, I can let people in, I can share my experiences, I can open myself up. But in true reality, I would say most definitely, I would say 4 years now, the past 4 years is when I feel myself going, I enjoy being part of a pack. And part of that experience is, and I'll be honest in this moment and authentic, and I'm not just saying this because, Hercules, you're hosting us. But when you send me a notice about, a show and a panel, and you're like, hey, would you like to be a part of this? There, it's like my heart starts like beating, and it's like, oh, I'm a part of this group and I'm a part of this. This is so cool that, they want me back. They want me a part of this. And so it kind of, in a way, makes me feel special to be asked and included in. But at the same time, I know that's not what you're asking and what you're, projecting out. And so I'm like, I own that's my projection of it. And I humble myself back down and I'm like, yes, I'm one of the team. It's like we're a crew. We're a little family. And I'm one of many. So I'm not the unique special one, but I am a part of something. And that in itself makes me feel like, yeah, I don't need to be the lone wolf anymore. I am safe being this group mentality.
I'm honored by your words, and you're special. That's why you're. That's why you're here. You're a torchbearer. That's a designation that I've not come up with, but adopted to describe a certain range of individuals who, again, start off in our society like everybody else, and then question it, and then go off on their journeys, and eventually uh, after being inspired by others and doing their own thing, they come to a point where they're ready to share what they found with other people because they realize that they're not the only one going through this journey. And even though the particulars might be different, a lot of the elements of the journey are the same. So you're definitely special. Your perspective is valuable, and I'm honored that you're here. And welcome to the Torchbearers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sue, how about you?
Well, with me though, I was adopted. I was abandoned in South Korea, and um, I ended up being adopted to an American couple, and I was abused for a very long time. At first, I was loved, but then I got abused. And when the abuse started, I started having experiences as like I would see beings in my room. I think they were there to comfort me. It could have been angels. And I ended up finding myself in situations like, for example, I could find my back to the ceiling in my bedroom, and I don't know how it got there, and things like that. And I don't know if I was placed in that family to, I don't know, toughen me up or wake me up or whatever it was, but it gotten to the point where I started to believe that there was something more that was going on and I just didn't fit in with the parents. It was a little mismatch. And then finally, my sister was born, and I didn't relate to her whatsoever. When she was a baby, at first it was great. But when she learned to walk and talk, then she literally singled me out right away in her earlier years. We didn't get along or anything. And I felt literally like the oddball. I was put aside, And my parents kind of had the attitude that wish we could return her. We found out we could have kids after all. That was my impression. To their dismay, of course, they had to keep me and look after me. I was raised with the bare minimum I until I was 18, and all that time in school, um, I didn't fit in anywhere. Just like Michael, I just didn't fit in. I kept saying I want to go home. I was not having fun here on Earth. I just simply wanted to go home. And I would say that very often. It was to the point where I was trying to attempt suicide in my late teenage years because the abuse was so bad. And I was like, where do I go? And like, I didn't have any other family. Um, no one would take my side. No one had my back. I felt very, very alone. So by the time I was 18, he threw me out on the street, and he said, "When you're 18, you leave the home." And he talks about how he was 18, he left for the military. Well, obviously, I didn't qualify for the military due to my height and my disabilities, um, but I didn't have anything lined up, and I was thrown out of the house with 75 cents in my pocket and the clothes on my back. So I started my life out with nothing. I finally found a shelter that was willing to take me in, and I started my life pretty much over. And that was a time where I had time to think about what I was supposed to do with my life. I thought there was a supposed to, like a formula that I had to drive off of. I didn't realize that there wasn't really a supposed to formula after all. It took a counselor in the shelter that taught me that there was no formula I had to drive off of, that your path is your own. You're going to have to figure out where you want to go with it and what you want to do with it. So I I spent many, many years looking at myself and figuring out what to do. I finally got married. Um, I had my kid, and I'm skipping a lot of the parts of my life. There's a lot of painful spots that were really bad, like being raped and stuff. It's hard for me to talk about it. I had a baby from that, and I gave her up for adoption. Um, but eventually, I did get married, and that didn't work out. Um, and it was really rough for me. The divorce was really rough, and so I decided to raise our daughter by myself, and I didn't really believe in love. For a long time, I thought love was just maybe for special people, certain people. I loved my daughter, and she loved me, but that was it. I didn't. I had trouble believing in it, and we went to church, and I just felt a lot of emptiness, and a lot of things just didn't match up. Um, and it took me a long time to actually find my footing again. I think that it actually took a spark. One day I was just like really, really upset with life, and I was crying, and then I saw some sort of image in my room, and that was the spark of the beginning of a new way of thinking. And I was told that there were many things that were going to happen in the future. You don't need to end your life. You have a daughter that you have to take care of, and things are going to change. And things did. Um, and I had to learn that when doors close, windows can open, other doors can open. There were other opportunities, and I was taught that by different entities and different beings, my guides, God. I just started meditating, and they told me that sometimes people come in your life to teach you something. They're not there to stay. Some people are there to stay. Some people are there to guide you on a certain path so that you can enrich yourself in a certain way of being. And it took a while for me to take that to heart and to understand what they meant. By the time I got married again, um, I had my third daughter, and I started to understand a little more how life is supposed to be looked at, I guess, or how life could be looked at. And I didn't have the feeling that I just simply wanted to go home. I felt like now I have a mission because I saw what the school did to my second daughter, which they poisoned her so badly that she got into this gender dysphoria thing, which she never had. And um, and I saw what the media has been doing, what the world has, the world view of attitude was going, and I saw the divide. I saw the things that were happening. I saw basically the human soul, the well was getting poisoned as much as possible. And so then I decided to actually take it a mission, and it took seeing about the Edge of Wonders boys that I ran across their videos to actually jumpstart the ability to come to terms that there's something more that I need to do that's bigger than all of us, and that I would be a small part of it, but I would be able to help push the momentum forward on the things that are happening in school, the things that are happening in normal daily life, and with the help of my husband, I actually came part of the Great Awakening, if you will. I really woke up to what was going on, and that's what brought me into the whole meditation and trying to understand where your life can go and what you can do with it, far more than just beyond what we were taught in school, which I never related either, and what happens in church, which I just couldn't get with. And even as same like Michael reading the Bible, it just didn't, a lot of things didn't click. And so I learned that there were other places where you can get the information rather than the common source, in which your guide and God, and I learned to talk to them more.
Thank you very much. Wow, I'm sorry you have to go through all that.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Thank
you're
you.
finally in a good place for you. Thank you. Michael, you also experimented with astral projection and altered states. Were you in contact with other beings as well?
I would say I did come across quite a few, and it kind of, in a way, because it was so natural for me, and it was like an escape for me because not to like try and like compare or outdo, but some of my past, I had a lot of rough patches too, and scenarios that I'm like, I wouldn't wish on anybody that came through, not to the extreme of Sue, but it was my own kind of experience that I was like, didn't like. And so I feel like I kind of used it a little bit as an escapism at night when I would sleep. I could slip into this other world where I had more freedom and I could do more things. And so I would meet other beings and other cultures, but then as I would come back and be operating here on the earth realm, I would find that what I was doing over there didn't correlate to existence over here. And what I mean by that is I could talk to a being and diffuse a situation and come to a mutual agreement and a mutual energy benefit for everybody. But here, if I tried that, I would just get pushed around or beat up and bullied. And my mom, taught me, violence doesn't solve anything. And later in life, she said to me, I feel like I did you wrong because if you had fought back, maybe your life wouldn't be what it is today. And I literally went to my mom and I said, Mom, I love you to death, but you're not actually the reason I didn't fight back. It's a small part, I will say, but the main reason was from work on the astral plane and realm. I learned how to read a body so I could find weaknesses. And I realized every person that was bullying me and picking on me, if I was to retaliate, I don't know that I would have the measure to stop myself. And so I told her, I said, I actually didn't fight back as a preservation method of, I didn't know control at that time and where the line to stop was. And astral, I had that knowledge because of meeting like mantis beings and learning how to heal things and the power of being like a warrior through healing means and meeting ant beings and meeting these other other cultures that we would look at and go, they're just a bug. I'm like, yeah, out there, they're a little bit more advanced than we are, but they don't, act the same way we do. But some of them do, and some of them will push you around. And so I learned how to really grow in my own power more out there than I did here. And there was a period in my life where I kind of jokingly say for like 2 weeks, I was suspended from being out there because I was spending too much time out there. It's like I was living life out there rather than living life here. And so they're like, we need you to be here. You need to anchor yourself here and learn to operate here as well. And so it was kind of humbling of going, yes, you can do all this great work out there, but you also need to be present here because there are things to learn here. As much as there are days where I will sit there and mutter under my breath, if this is what humanity is going to show the world, God help us, because we are totally beyond help right now. To then somebody will do something or something will happen, and I'll be like, you know what? That just sparked me, and I'm like, there is hope. And this is what true humanity is. That spark that was like the light that brings us back to, yes, there is hope. Yes, we can make changes. So I'm not sure if I answered that or if I went and rambled on and kind of skirted around your
No,
question.
no, you answered the question. Like Sue, you found, despite the darkness and the difficulties, you found the light, and the light that gave you a new perspective, and that has influenced your entire life. So no, you answered it perfectly, and you opened the door to the next question. What is the range of your explorations, and do you have any heroes or inspiratory individuals that you credit? Like, for instance, some of mine were H.P. Blavatsky, Tim Beckley, Brad Steiger, and Eric von Daniken. So we've celebrated them through programs and talked to the people who are carrying on their work and so forth. So I would like for all the torch bearers, if there's anybody who has passed on, we can honor them in our Hall of Heroes. And if they're still around, we could name them an inspiration and talk with them. I've talked with many of my heroes who are still alive in many different fields, including Harryhausen, Ray Harryhausen. He was on my TV show when I had a TV show. So it's a custom that I have, and I'd like for you to be able to talk to the people that you admired and inspired you to do what you're doing. So I knock the ball back in your court. What are your inspirations, and what is the range of your exploration?
I would say inspiration. I got inspired by Ben and Rob of Edge of Wonder, and I got inspired by Dan Millman, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and I'll be honest, when I saw that movie, it's like so many aspects of the book. It's like to see it really transformed the book into, yes, it's one thing to read what happened and kind of picture what that looks like, but to see it on screen, it was like, whoa, what I imagined is so minuscule compared to what they showed it as. And I was like, oh, I can totally take this idea and even go further and push myself and have that proverbial transformational moment. And it's a moment that's repetitive. Just because you transform once doesn't mean you're done. You
Right.
can do it many times. And so I would say, also people that I've met along my life, like you, Hercules, and Paul, Michael, Sue, everybody that, we interact with and we share ideas with, that when we share an idea, like, I will admit when I first mentioned, you know, astral travel or, meeting an alien being, I kind of was like a little timid in my voice because I was like, oh, am I about to get laughed off of this show?
No, no.
Because, most people don't like to hear this idea. And so I was like a little timid and going, ooh, maybe I should gently say this so if it's not accepted, there's hope that I can come back and redeem myself and come back into the tribe, so to speak, or hey, this is welcomed. Let's push the envelope and let's, share a little bit more. And so I'm always surprised when people I have formed a natural idea of where they are make a comment, and I'm like, whoa, you're further in than I thought you were into things. And so I'm loving this, and I can talk about this now, and I can talk about that now. And so it's not necessarily, books or celebrities or movies that inspire me per se, is seeing and hearing people in everyday life having similar ideas that I have. It doesn't have to be exact, and it doesn't even have to be in alignment. It can contradict, but if it's presented in a respectful way, it makes me think, and I'm like, those are the people that inspire me and get me to keep going in life.
Well,
And
you're part
so
of that. You're sharing and again giving people a different perspective based on where you've stood and where you stand, and that is a rare thing. And
it is.
whether it's a podcast or something I'm doing in a library or someplace else, a lot of times people come afterwards and they say that they never had a place where they could talk about these things before. So one of the things that I try to create is a place where people can be comfortable and they can share their perspectives. And again, you're not here to convince anybody, but to share what you see, and that's such a valuable thing because we're always growing, we're always developing. And I tell my students when I have classes that one of them might say something that might change my whole perspective. And then I'll be sharing what they shared with me instead of what I was saying before. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for what you're doing.
Sue, how about you? You mentioned
Um,
your inspiration, the voice of wonder, which was the same as Michael's inspiration. Do you have any other inspirations? And what are the range of your exploration?
well, um, I started out with my guides and my spirits, and eventually, um, I ran into the Edge of Wonder boys, their episodes and stuff, and I binge watched them. the bulk of that was there. And then I met, I think I was in a DTI during the Illusion chat room, and or something like that, and I met Tyler Kiwala from the Journey to the Truth. And I know those boys personally. I literally, Tyler moved, but at the time he lived only 3 miles away from me, so I would hang out with him. And he actually taught me about crystals. And I would check on that with my guides about the crystal uses and stuff. But he started me on the spiritual side of the journey because I kind of got the more of the nut and bolt side done. And then I was starting to have all these dreams where I had dreams growing up and they were weird. It didn't make any sense. And I was going places when I was younger, doing things. And I wasn't on Earth, I was somewhere else. And I didn't know what that was all about. And then eventually I ran into between George and Thayer, which I also met. And met the other Wonder Boys, and I actually had a chance to talk to him about some of the stuff that was going on. Then I met my Dr. Michael Sala, who started talking more about the secret space program, and other people who did readings on me also believed that I was part of the secret space program, because I would find myself going on missions in my sleep, and then I would wake up with my neck sore, my body parts hurting, because I remember that I was in some sort of fight, and it wasn't me. I was used kind of like a battery, if you will, and my consciousness would be, and my abilities, my powers, or whatever, would be taken out, and it would be put into someone else, which is my doppelganger. I got a chance to meet her a little bit. Um, and I remember one time I was walking with her and I said, you know what, it's no fair that you're thin and healthy and agile, and I'm stuck here on Earth, chubby, trying to desperately to keep my health up and lose weight. This is not fair. Why do you got the good side of it? Um, but she says we have missions. We have a lot of missions to get rid of the bad guys, the bad reptilians and Dracos and stuff. And I do remember being on a mission where I was actually in an atrium, and it was some sort of place. I don't know. When I looked out the window, it looked like a normal garden, but it looked like it was fake. And I remember there was a long line of people, I guess, getting food, but then there was a booth that nobody was in, and so I felt bad, and I went over there, and the menu was not even in English, and it was just like 5 items on there with pictures. So I just pointed to one, looks like some sort of a soup, I guess, and he nodded his head, and he came out with it. I don't know how I knew, um, but I said, tastes like people, and he freaked out. And I remember chasing after him into like a cement tunnel with these fluorescent lights. And I remember having some sort of like a can, like a small can with a grenade type pull, but it wasn't a hand grenade, it was like a tin can. And I pulled that, and I remember throwing it at him. It was like orange smoke came out of it, and it knocked him out. And I woke up. So that kind of confirmed that something was going on with me, but that wasn't the only time. That was one of the big ones I really remember. So it appears that I might be under SSP, because I'm still doing missions every now and again. Um, I do have guides who has taught me the spiritual side of things and how to more connect with other people, which is where eventually more of my psychic powers woke up. I had some psychic ability as a child, and that's why I could see through people when they lie to me, or when people talk to me and it doesn't make sense. Um, I could see the contradictories. I could see, the intentions and the motive, and that's why I wasn't really good with people in my younger years. I just found people too much trouble sometimes. And it's just that as I grew up, though, I could start to see a transformation of my opinion about society, and how the duality of society versus awake and not awake, versus spiritual and not spiritual. And so we are in a spiritual war right now. And I feel, I can feel myself being pulled in to different types of dreams and visions, whether awake or asleep. and I can feel myself seeing the path that I need to go with, and it's not a straight line. It's very windy. And I was told that if I just breathe and relax, I can connect with the universe better. So when I did that, I started being able to see auras. I started being able to read people, and then I started getting into meditation because then I learned one of the major things I learned was the rhythm of your body. And when you learn the rhythm of your body, then you know how to handle it when you're not feeling well or when you're feeling low. How do you lift yourself up? How to work on your health and so forth. And I felt that when I went to these journeys, I felt that I could now start having the keys to connect with people. And I'm so grateful that I have a chance to connect with people on podcast. So when I go on podcast, it allows me to bring some sort of a connection between myself and other people, especially when they watch the videos, that then hopefully I can have a chance to help them on their journey as well. And I'm grateful. Thank you, Hercules, for giving me that opportunity.
And I'm grateful that you're here and you're sharing. I'm amazed at what you've been through and how positive your outlook is, and you're very compassionate and communicative too. So you've healed a lot, and it's great that you're trying to heal other people who are also wandering in the adventure of life, with the maze of life. Um, I'm planning upcoming shows for the UFO entity Enigma, which both of you have been on. Would you be interested in Total King and sharing your experiences about the spirit guides, alien or otherwise? So they don't have to be alien. But, would you be interested in sharing that?
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
both of us would, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
We can even share how we even saw Earth plays out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's worth devoting a few shows to, because both of you in a recent show shared a little bit of that, and that was very powerful.
Yeah.
I'd like to explore that with some more. Michael especially said some things that I said in the past too, that I didn't sign away my sovereignty. So, the Greek Orthodox Church, which is where I went to school and was associated with as a child, they portrayed heaven as a place where you spend eternity on your knees, saying hallelujah. So I couldn't imagine myself doing that for like minutes, much less all of eternity. So
Right.
that was part of what drove me to exploring. And I, in my explorations, I found a lot of places that had answers, but it sounds like they wanted you to be a spiritual slave. And so my answer has always been no, I'm not interested. Even in theosophy, which I like in terms of its explanations in the Neo Theosophical movement, the spiritual beings in charge are called masters, and the students are called chelas, and the word chela translates into slave. So thank you for the information, but for the system, no. I think we're into the explanation.
Yes, and I just had a realization, Hercules, if I can take a moment to
Sure.
share. I honestly, I was thinking, how interesting it was that you put Sue and I on this episode together, and I was like interested to see why. And I'm wondering if you knew, because our lives seem to be paralleled. And Sue, I'm about to mention something, and I don't know if you realize I have information about this or if you knew I was involved in, but when you mentioned the SSP, or the Secret Space Program, I was like, my jaw dropped, because that is one of the things that I was mentioning earlier tonight, of saying, I only put a tidbit because people don't tend to hear that and react kindly to it. It kind of a lot of times will lead to ridicule or mockery. And I'm like, yeah, I've had enough of that in life. And so I don't open up, but I actually have knowledge and experience in the secret space program as well. And so when you mentioned that, I was like, I wonder if Hercules knew, and that's why you and I were put
No, I,
side by side on this and being like supporting each other.
We're probably cut from the same cloth somehow. And I mean, it's interesting because you and I have given different life experience, but at the same time, same life experience. And at the same time, then you and I were also given the same types of knowledge. We ran into the same spots. We ended up with the same information at the end, and here we are. You and I both probably have the same type of knowledge, and there isn't anything or that here on Earth or elsewhere that can surprise me. I've actually can see just about everything that's going on with this part of the psychic side in which I've seen different beings and stuff like that. So, and you, the same thing. I mean, all this gets to be normal stuff, but we're kind of concerned, both of us, is how we get perceived in the outside world because there's this bubble that you and I can be comfortable in, and then if we step outside that bubble, it starts to get weird, you know?
Exactly. And so thank you, Hercules, for creating the space for us to do this, whether you intentionally knew you were doing that
no, I
or
did.
not.
It was unintentional. It's a pleasant surprise, because that too is one of the subjects I want to explore in this new cycle of programming. So you guys have presented me the next opportunity. You're both involved with it, so I know who my guests are. And in fact, we just had a cancellation for Saturday and Sunday. So if you guys are free Saturday or Sunday, maybe we could do a part two to the show and take it from there.
Yeah. I'm
Yes,
available.
I'm more than happy to come on.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, as of right now, I have nothing scheduled Saturday or Sunday. So, uh, and even if I do schedule something, it's always in the daytime on the weekend, so I'm always free at night.
Oh, fantastic. I will know tomorrow by noon Eastern Standard Time. So I'll send you both a personal message on Facebook and then we can take it from there. Sue, how about you? Are you free this weekend?
Yeah, I'm free. I'm available. Just give me the time. That's the one thing I get concerned about is the time sometimes, when they're not listed. So, yeah,
I
I can
will
do
do
it.
so tomorrow.
Well,
Okay.
and one thing I've learned, Sue, from being on Hercules' panels is they are 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central time. So whenever he sends me an invite, I naturally mark it 8 p.m.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I
You're
figure
there
if it's
central,
gonna
right?
change, I'll get a message from him saying, "Hey, I thought you said you were available," and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm on now. Let me go get on really quick."
Well, I'm honored I have met both you and I'm glad that our paths crossed. And I look forward to this adventure we're on together. Now, in closing, because we've already moved well past 50 minutes, um, what would you like to see, like in terms of positive change on the planet? Because both of you are spiritual, both of you are involved in what are like modern day shamanic missions. Um, what positivity would you like to see on the planet? For instance, with me, I'd like to see people listen to each other rather than trying to attack each other over the slightest thing. And I'm finding even locally, everything's polarized now. Um, Politics are polarized, religion's polarized, um, all sorts of ideas about the gender roles are polarized. But it seems like we're attacking other people and feeling negative emotions toward them. We don't even know them or understand why they believe what they believe. So I'd like to see more communication. What would you guys like to see?
Sue, do you want to take this one first?
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Um, well, I would like to see more compassion. I would also like to see people awaken their spiritual side because once you do, you can get rid of a lot of the demons that are inside of you that has invading you, that gets you to think a certain way that is not healthy for you or the planet as a whole. It's not healthy for society. Um, I would like to see us function more in harmony, not just with ourselves, but along with the planet, because that's how it was in the old days. We functioned with the rhythm of Earth, no matter how Earth ran. We function not only that, but even with the rhythm of each other. We all had a consciousness connection with each other, and I don't think we naturally had all of these attacking each other type mentality. I don't think that was a natural thing. I think that's been artificially put in our system, our minds, and our way of living, and that was a thing that the negative entities have done. So I would like to see less negative and more positive and more connection, more love.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Michael?
I have an interesting perspective, and you guys know this by now, so it's kind of funny that I even feel like I need to say it, but I would say what I want to see grow into the future is yes, communication, and yes, both of what you guys are saying, but I also would like the element of respect to be restored. And when I say respect, I mean the respect of when, like, Hercules says something about where he is in life and where he is studying right now. Even, and if I don't agree with it, I'm not going to go and say, no, you're wrong. It's this. The respect I'm talking about is Hercules, it's great that you're there, and I'm glad you're seeing what you're learning and you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And yes, it doesn't, I don't agree fully with it, but I understand that's where you are. And so kudos to you for being where you are and standing where you are. And this is where I am. And we don't have that need to try to fix or try to make others believe what we believe, as we see in society today of, oh, if you don't agree with me on this, then you're my enemy and I need to convert you because that's what my faith tells me, and if you don't convert, you're damned. And I'm like, really? That does not seem like a religion that I even want to even give a moment's thought to, let alone a second thought to. And so I'm like, you've literally just pushed me away. And so that's where I would like that respect and the understanding and the compassion. And I almost want to say there's a word that I use that has been misunderstood or reserved in people's minds for specific people, and that is honor. That honor is restored to everybody, and that we are who we are, and we're accepted as we are, where we are.
Very boldly said and very true. And let's create that environment in the things that we're creating together. I believe that we
Yes, and
already, but we will, and let's cultivate it in our interactions and through our interactions and create that and show people what it looks like.
I feel like we've already started that.
Me too.
It's been going.
And alas, so we've reached the end of our conversation time. How can people find you and have access to, like, if you've written any books or if you've recorded any audio, or if you have another show that you're on, how can people find that and enter your world? Start with Sue.
Well, I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter, X. I am on Instagram under all of it under Sue McClure. You can message me on Messenger. Um, You can email me at SooLightworker, SOOLIGHTWORKER @gmail.com. I'm on Substack. If you want to actually see one of my meditation techniques, it's on there. I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm kind of everywhere. So you can
Wow.
contact me.
Thank you for being so accessible.
I am. I mean, if worst case scenario, if you guys want to, you can put a note on a piece of paper and attach it to a brick and throw it to my window. I'm just kidding.
Or homing pigeon or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna
homing
say
pigeon.
carrier pigeon.
Or
Yeah, smoke signals are fine too. Just don't do it in non-smoking sections, though.
be considerate and kind.
Yes.
And Michael, how about you? Where can people reach you? I know you've written books. Where can people find your books and read them?
Yes, my books are available on Amazon. I do have an author's page, so if you look up Michael Kopf books, you will find them. And I do have more books in the works, so I've kind of slowed it down a little bit dealing with some stuff personally, but I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn. I would say Instagram, but right now I'm having arguments with Instagram because I'm like 30 or 40 people below the max number, and I constantly find people that I was following are unfollowed, and I'm following back, and then I find they're unfollowed again, and so I don't know why Instagram is, doing what it does, but so I'm starting to not be so social on there, but I'm more accessible on Facebook, LinkedIn, Rumble. I have channels for my podcast shows, The Energy That Surrounds Us, Writing Through the Unknown, Paranormal Verses, and I do have a Rumble channel called Michael Koff's Adventures, where when YouTube allows me to download episodes like these with Hercules or other people where I make appearances, I upload them to that channel so that my hope is people that are watching my channels will see who I'm on shows with and go and check out their stuff and go and support those people as well. And so that's why I upload to those. I'm also on Spotify, Acast, Podbean, and pretty much wherever somebody will allow me to air.
Well, thank you. You're very accessible too. I'm just available through Facebook and YouTube at this particular point in time. I have an Amazon author page as well. And we do shows for authors and where we focus on you in a book or you and your books. So let's talk about that in the future. We'll schedule something.
Yes,
Okay.
I'd love to.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. I look forward to continuing this conversation this weekend. And I wish you both well. And again, thank you so very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
And this will be up by midnight Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good night.
Awesome.
Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.